fact or fiction with this claim from the Wild 4th round pick, the Finnish young defenseman, Aron Kiviharju. I think it's Kiviharju who told
maybe.
Yeah, I'm a Finn too, so I should be able to get that pronunciation right. Who told Bill Guerin you got to steal the draft?
Yeah.
Now, you may not call him to steal the draft since there's a lot of players in the draft, but like how off or on is his assessment from where he landed and what he can be?
Well, I mean, I think Kiviharju should have been a second-round pick in this draft. And so obviously getting him in the 4th is great value for me. Obviously a very, very complicated development path over the last year. The knee injury really sort of set him back. His skating has also been the concern about Aron traditionally. So the fact that he hurt his knee and then when he came back at U18 Worlds, he looked a little slow. That just raised some red flags for teams. You've got a 5'9" defenseman who isn't a high-end skater and has missed significant time due to injury. But in saying that, I mean, there were players picked ahead of him in the 4th round there that I don't think have any chance of getting signed, let alone playing in the NHL. And Aron Kiviharju is going to be a first-pairing defenseman for the Finnish World Junior team this year. He's going to get signed by the Minnesota Wild. He's going to at least be an AHL power play defenseman. He would have been a full-time defenseman in Liiga last year. I spoke with the coaching staff there. They said he easily, quote, easily was a top 6 defenseman for that team in the fall before he got injured. So I love that. It's exactly the kind of value play I think teams should be making at that range in the draft. And coincidentally, I mean, I know you're a Finn as well. They're just speaking of the World Junior Summer Showcase, there could be 3 Wild prospects on that team. Kiviharju's a lock. He could be the captain of that team. Rasmus Kumpalainen is going to be a middle 6 center, I would think, for that team, and is also absolutely a lock. And then Sebastian Soini was at the World Junior Summer Showcase this week and was shockingly not on the U18 team. I heard there was just a bit of a rift between him and the coach. The coach didn't like him, hadn't liked what he'd seen of him previously. There were actually members of the Finnish Hockey Federation who were saying that he should have been on that team privately and that they made a mistake. There were teammates of his on that Finnish U18 team who said that he should have been on that team. And now, lo and behold, 3 months later, he has been invited to play at the World Junior Summer Showcase, even though he wasn't on the U18 team prior. So Soini's a player who I think, because he's a righty and they're a little light on righties for this age group for the Finns, he could be on that team as well. So you're going to have all sorts of, plus we haven't even talked about Riley Height and others. You're going to have all sorts of wild flair, I think, at this year's tournament.
Yeah, and forgive the pun, but speaking of height, gotta ask, is really the only difference between you and your colleague Corey Pronman that you don't embrace height discrimination?
Well, me and Corey do view it a little bit differently that way. He tends to value, you're right, the size component more than I do. And we've had some really good debates over some players in recent draft classes that we've disagreed on. A player like Zach Benson, for example, that I was really high on, that Corey was lower on. And then on the flip side, some of the bigger guys that I was lower on. So it does create for some good debates. Certainly, I think size is a premium specifically for defensemen. I think it matters less and less up front, frankly. But still is, there's a reason that the St. Louis Blues and the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Vegas Golden Knights teams that won the Stanley Cup looked the way that they did on the blue line and were so successful with the length that they had, all 3 of those teams in particular. But then you've got the Colorado Avalanche, who have 4 of their top 6 defensemen are 5'10", 5'11", right? So there's different ways to build a team, and I think you get into trouble when you get carried away with size. We've seen Olin Zellweger, Lane Hudson, Logan Stankoven, the guys who tend to be the steals, the real risers from each draft class, tend to be those smaller skilled guys. And those guys I still think have a role to play, especially if their skill level is sort of the elite level. So I've always been high on the Lane Hudsons and the Zellwegers and the Stankovens. They were really, really high on my lists. I've also been too high on some smaller guys over the years too. So there's a balancing act that way.